Hi, I'm Jester, and I come to you today to share some cool actions you can take in Dragon's Dogma 2 to bring a thief gameplay to zoomier and cooler heights. Alright, let me start with a question. When you think of thief gameplay, do you think of this? Or this? I mean, there's nothing wrong with that, but take a look at this. Looks just a tad cooler, right? Let me show you.
Let me tell you something, man.
Now before we begin, a little disclaimer that this is going to be a more advanced tutorial, definitely not ideal for beginners. But hey, if you got good finger dexterity and good control over your muscle memory, you should be able to pull these moves off, no problem. Beginner or not, this is not DMC. So let's start with this back and forth motion that I've displayed in the previous clips. It's a combination of using Swift Step, which is your vocation skill, and pressing Carve, which is your light attack during the dash animation. And for convenience, we'll call this maneuver Swift Carve. A short explanation of Swift Step is that it's your dedicated dodge button. I know you Souls-like fans out there are losing your minds right now, but other than the usual iframe startup and repositioning, it also cancels a lot of recovery frames from other moves. But be aware that Swift Step itself has its own recovery animations, where your character looks like they're trying to break the momentum of the slide. This is where Carve comes in. When you press Carve in the middle of Swift Step's dash, you will do a two-handed flipping attack instead of your usual light attack. And this cancels you out of Swift Step's animation. This synergizes very well with Swift Step because it has very few recovery frames, but be careful not to mesh Carve, otherwise it will put you in your light attack combo. Now to achieve the back and forth motion, you choose a direction to input Swift Step and then hold in the opposite direction, press Carve before the dash animation ends. And once you can get one Swift Carve going, try to loop them. I would say 4 loops is pretty practical already. An important side note is that you should implement some pauses in between your Swift Carves to adapt to the enemies attacking you. If there's an enemy nearby, the game's soft lock-on will magnetize you towards them, so it's not always gonna be this hard to execute. You would still want to aim if there are multiple enemies near you. Here are some examples of me using it practically. Alright, let's run back that last one. Here I preemptively dodge out of the way before a cast gets thrown in my face, and then I input a basic carve after Swift Carve to delay my timing to match the goblin jumping at me, so that I can dodge out of there just as it would hit me. Another projectile dodge. That one the goblin just straight up missed. Now another side note, if you're wondering about Swift Step into your heavy attack, it's possible, but I don't think it's as flowy as looping Swift Carves. You can still do it if you like it though, no one's stopping you. Be creative. So now that we've established the core of the playstyle, let's figure out how to spice things up. So we're hitting the monster and dashing away. Let's look at our options when we're away from the monster. Option 1, go towards the enemy. Or 2, pull the enemy towards you. Let's explore option 1. Since we already have a move that lets us approach the enemy in Swift Carve, let's vary it up with a different move. Preferably something that launches you into the air, like this move. Ooh, it's getting spicy.
Yeah, boy.
This move is called Concussive Step, or Concussive Leap, the advanced version. Using this move on neutral will make your character throw a stun bomb beneath them, launch them up into the air, they will do a backflip, then land back on the ground. Acting out of the launch early will give you forward momentum, while acting out of it late will give you backward momentum because of the backflip. Holding a direction will do the same thing, but it will launch your character in the direction which you were holding. It can also be used as a double jump to get to higher ground, or even mount large enemies if you hold Twin Fangs. It also redirects your air momentum in the direction that you input. Since we lost the double vault from DD1, it's nice to have a good replacement with a lot of utility. Here are some practical uses.
But we ought not let it halt us in our course.
Alright, since I've shown a bunch of it, and I know a lot of you are dying to hear about it because it's such a cool move on its own, it's time to talk about Helm Splitter, or Skull Splitter. This move actually has some quirky properties to it. It's not as simple as a one-button spin to win. That is, if you don't let it be. First, it inherits the momentum generated by your air movement like jumping and concussive leap. You can get some goofy interactions by using Skull Splitter in the opposite direction of your concussive leap. This way, you will be spinning while floating backwards. You can also aim it at a 90-degree angle of the direction you were leaping towards, and you will float sideways. This move does have a lot of recovery frames though. You can't simply jump out of it or carve. Swift Step is still your best option for cancelling out of it. Here are some examples of concussive leap with Skull Splitter. Maybe you can find some funny interactions this move can give. I usually try to use Skull Splitter closer to the ground when in conjunction with Concussive Leap, because it carries you way too far away when you're high in the air and have momentum. Side note, you can use Carve in the air after Concussive Leap for a faster recovery option. It does, however, extend the distance you travel, so maybe you can find some utility in that. Now for some supplemental notes and a mini combo. Adding a little bit of nuance to your gameplay by instead of taking actions away from the enemy, but now playing with your options in the face of your enemy will go a long way in terms of variety. So now try using a neutral concussive leap after you've approached the enemy with the carve portion of a Swift Carve. Was that too complicated? I'm joking. To keep things simple, basically, use a neutral concussive leap when you're close to the enemy, and then Twin Fangs while you're in the air. This pretty much guarantees a finisher since concussive leap stuns the enemy. I've just taken it upon myself to call this Concussive Fangs. God, that sounds cool. You can try to achieve the same thing by simply jumping and using Twin Fangs, but it doesn't look as cool and it's less consistent because there's nothing to prime the enemy for finishers. Plus you get a backflip into a finisher, that's way cooler. And yeah, this interaction. I know it's a glitch and it's something to do with the soft lock-on, but I want to try to experiment and see if it's consistent. It looks pretty cool if you can pull it off. And now, finally, back to our option 2. You didn't forget about that, did you? Option 2 is to pull an enemy towards you using Ensnare or Implicate after you dashed away from them. You could do a pre-planned setup by putting a powder charge in the ground, pull them towards you and detonating it. And if you're feeling extra spicy, you could use Concussive Leap to pull off an air detonation, because
cool guys don't look at explosions.
Implicate can pull harpies out of the air so you can catch them with a quick air carve for a mini juggle. Remember about Nuance and not only using your skills when you've dashed away from the enemy? Well, using Implicate at point blank will launch the enemy behind you. You can keep up the pressure with more Swift Carve sequences, or you could launch yourself after them with a directional concussive leap and finishing it with Twin Fangs. You could immediately Skull Splitter after pulling them towards you, or pulling them into a neutral concussive leap into a Skull Splitter, though this one is a bit hard to pull off. And I think I've exhausted all my brain juice for this video. The possibilities are quite dynamic depending on the enemies and situations, but I hope I managed to enrich your experience in the game with this knowledge. And if it did, please give a like, share, and subscribe for more of this type of content. Just wait until I get my hands on Mystic Spearhand and Warfarer. I'll also probably make something on large monsters and how to style on them. Till then, take care and have fun. Bye bye.